Test. Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Or am I the only one with sound?
Yes, you can. I was just talking without my mic on, so oh my goodness. So, getting used to the evening. I was really talking That is so funny. I actually said I'm giving Dawn an opportunity. I want to give my co-host an opportunity to say hello. So thankful that you're here co-hosting with me tonight. Hopefully, it's evening time. We're a little bit more relaxed and waiting on our featured guest tonight, Miss Danny. I know she will be here, but I did want to draw people's attention to the interview that is posted in the Jumbotron. And there's a couple other stories up there too. And I have a funny little story, but I want to give you, Dawn, a chance to say hello and tell us what's on your mind um, this Wednesday hump day, happy hour time. So go ahead.
Happy hour time. I thank everyone for coming this evening. Just want to get back in this fight for good trouble. Um, I have honestly, like last time or last week, I have not been watching the news cycle because I don't want to. I don't want to code red. It's upsetting to me, especially Rick had a great space yesterday about McGonagall and the Pence documents, the classified documents. So I've decided to rest. I haven't turned on the TV whatsoever. I've just read a couple of articles today, and then work. And I'm still trying to. Oh, I missed the holidays. I don't know about you all, but we know what we're in for. We know that February 7th, they've scheduled the State of the Union address. I'm anxious to see how this is going to go. I'm hoping it'll go well and talk about the state of our union and also um, just what's going on in the economy, what we need to look for. You guys, and I will mirror what Fish said, save every dime that you can. Just make smart decisions. I don't think we're really going to see um, any reduction in inflation until about quarter 3 or quarter 4. And just make sure you stay in touch with your family and your friends, the ones that are estranged or maybe having um, financial issues. Just keep your network tight. And the reason I say that is so important right now is and to stay in touch. We're about to see some hard times. I'm not saying that this will be a soft. I can't say or predict that it'll be a soft landing. Landing. I'm not an economist whatsoever, um, but we may feel the pinch of what a recession would look like. And so just make sure you just try to save where you can, help where you can, help your neighbors, talk to your neighbors, and just make sure that everybody is in a place emotionally, physically, mentally where they need to be, and just go out and reach out and do the extra. You are already seeing some things. We've had a rough year last year. It just seems like we can't get over 2020 or 29. Everybody's trying to bounce back, and it's a long bounce back. So I just wanted to put that out there to just get in touch with people you haven't spoken to in a long time, or friends, family, acquaintances that have been on your mind or you've been meaning to speak to them. Just make sure you reach out. You never know what that might do. So that's all. I'm going to let Danny, this is her night tonight. Thank
All
you,
right.
my
Well,
esteemed host.
well, thank you. And I appreciate you being here. And you raised some very good points that we need to be doing for obvious reasons. I see our guest is here. Danny, I'm sending you an invite. And again, just a little housekeeping. The Twitter moderation tools are not working exactly the way they have been in the past. So, some people, when I send an invite, they can't accept the request. So, if you're moved at all to come up and speak, please request and then we can bring you up. If you're having problems accepting it, send me a DM. But I do want to get you guys up. I know that that is an issue. And so I'm glad to have you guys here. Glad Danny is here. And just to remind you guys that, yeah, she's up. That Jima Riri is up here too. So we're going to hear from her, and then we'll kind of speak with Danny and talk about a little bit about the interview that we did. And of course, see where the conversation leads from there. What do you think, Dawn?
That'll work. This is really like a happy hour.
Yeah.
Wednesday is just something where we're just kind of coming together, just to kind of just highlight some of the, even if you have any articles that you want to think of, much like Danny and the Fourth Estate, we want to make sure that we still this keep her going, and some things that, and it doesn't necessarily have to involve politics. Just what's in the cycle for you that you've been keeping or that you've been watching for. I know I've been watching. I can't, and I think you put in the nesty about Iowa and the cruelty.
Yes.
I'm looking at the governorships right now, the huge push because every state's about to get their infrastructure money. There's going to be a huge push for a lot of governors vetting these governors to make sure that the money's going to go in the right place, and where we should put our focus on. Just because they have a D behind their name doesn't necessarily mean they're for our good. So we need to be mindful and watch some of that. Um, it's I mean, as far if we're talking about politics, but just anything else that you've seen, just talk about it. That's all we're gonna do tonight. That's about it. I don't want to take too much time.
All right. Well, let's go with Jima Riri, and then we'll kind of start our conversation with Danny tonight. And again, I want to thank you guys for being here, joining us, and please share, retweet the space as always. They're recorded. They're great conversations. You can find them here. You can also find them now on some of them on my YouTube channel and on the Spotify Advocacy Arena channel. And as Dawn said, because it is Advocacy Arena, it is not always about politics. I know that that's what people know me for, kind of in Twitter spaces, but I am an advocate for a lot of different things, and I like to talk to people who are working to advocate for different issues and things, and it's not always around politics. So thanks again. So, Jima Riri, you're up next, and then we're going to start with Danny.
Good evening, Advocacy Arena, Democracy First, Miss D, Dawn, Danny, thank you all so much. LMZ, big shout out, thank you. And D for giving me the reminders about spaces because I need those reminders. So I appreciate any and all of you that send me those reminders. One of the good things I'd like to celebrate in Illinois, J.B. Pritzker did pass some gun laws, um, which I think is a great start with getting rid of the assault weapons and the magazines. I know we have law enforcement here in Illinois that literally came out saying they were not going to abide by it. And yes, they will have to. I think it's a great first step for us here in Illinois. Unfortunately, being so close to Indiana, a lot of guns come in here illegally and very easily. The other thing I found very interesting was Monday evening when I watched the Rachel Maddow show. George Santos has a husband. I knew nothing about George Santos having a husband. And the video that Rachel show played, he was giving an interview about how he was attacked and almost assassinated and mugged, and they stole his shoes. Um,
No, that was hilarious.
yeah, but I mean, I have never seen or heard anything of him having a husband. It's almost like it's real, but the terrible thing, I feel like I'm watching SNL. They had that with Penelope. So if Penelope went to the baby shower and the woman had twins, Penelope would tell you, well, I had triplets and I had them on the moon as an astronaut. And this is really what George Santos, and I don't know how the Republican Party, how Speaker McCarthy can just stand there and do vicious things like trying to remove people from congressional seats on these committees that actually know what they're doing. And instead, let's put this lying con artist creature, Santos, Bobo, MTG. I mean, we knew it was going to be a circus, but as they're performing their circus, we still got lots of good work to do. And you guys all give me hope. You guys have taught me how to communicate, how to grab those people people that we need to go and vote. And I'm one of you in this group, how much I appreciate you and love you. And Dr. Mary Marshall, that was a wonderful, wonderful interview that Dee did with you. I so enjoyed that. I do not have YouTube, but I do have an iPhone and I can download Advocacy Arena to my podcast. And that's where I've been listening to you, Dee. And I also listened to the one with Tiff, and I love that one too. And lastly, I do want to say there's been some hate going around in some of these Twitter spaces. Do not let it affect you, my kings and queens. Straighten your crowns, keep doing your work. We got lots of people out here who are jealous, who are envious, who are looking for reputations and laughs. No, you guys are, we are doing real work here, and I appreciate it. And you're teaching a 54-year-old how to do this. So I just want to thank you and listen to everyone else.
Thank you so much. Like I appreciate that you have listened to the interviews. I appreciate the news that you bring to us when you come into spaces to speak, and it's always valued. And thank you for coming up tonight and speaking. And keep listening. I have more interviews lined up, so I want to keep them coming. And thank you for supporting. And we're going to get right into the featured guest tonight, Miss Danny. And you guys know her as the host of The Fourth Estate. And I had the pleasure of interviewing her a few days ago, and it is now. That interview is now available on Advocacy Arena. And I see Danny as well as so many others. I've interviewed Tiff, interviewed Dr. Marshall, and I actually have an interview coming up with, you guys know my cousin Brenda. I have interviewed her and some of these people. There will be multiple interviews, and I think these are all important voices, all important issues to bring awareness to help to educate us, get people more civically engaged, and also just involved in their community, advocating for things that they care about, like housing, affordable health care, all sorts of things. And I want to go give Danny an opportunity to share with you guys, tell you a little bit about what that experience was like, and give you guys an opportunity to ask her some questions if you'd like. So, Danny, how are you this evening?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the space, Misty. I did not get my reminder, even though I tweeted out that I would be attending the space tonight. Twitter is really on something. Thank you, Elon.
I know it really is. It really is. But we won't be deterred, so we figure out a
Right.
way. So thank you. I knew you were
Yeah.
going to be here.
I was like, wait, what happened? And I was like, okay, this started. Thank you for the reminder, Twitter. No, I quickly, I just want to say to Grandma Riri, your words are so encouraging. Thank you. Drop the mic there at the end. Like everyone else, yeah, it's been a lot, but we continue to go, move forward and onward. So, um, I appreciate the space, the featured guest. Wow. Okay. The
You're
interview.
the star tonight, Danny.
Oh, thank you. That interview was great. It was awesome. We all come to love Miss D. She has a very calming voice, right? And so she made me feel very relaxed when we did the interview. Um, Love the questions that she asked. And I am looking forward to this new chapter of her journey that she is um, taking us with her on. So I thank you for having me.
Yes. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we talked about a little bit. Of course, everyone came to love your Fourth Estate series. And like Dr.
Yeah.
Marshall, she it. So I'm not going to go on. I'm going to let her speak and give, I think, some thoughts around it. And I send you, like many other people have learned to do, some great articles. And I notice when I see certain things that are, like particularly glaring goofs in the media, I think of you automatically, and I try to share them with you. And I know that you would be interested in the status of the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News. So that's, like something that I hope will become a win for us if they can strike a blow against what I feel has been the biggest Russian propaganda arm in our country. That's going to be
Mhm.
great. So I know you're going to be sharing, like following that story, and I'm looking forward to you, sharing it from your perspective because you always have just a great, insightful way of connecting these things and helping to show us how to, hold the media to account because that is exactly what we have to do. And again, I love you for, just like really finding a lane to work in because political activism can take many different forms. And Danny
Yeah.
chose the media. Other people, may choose to actually run, like my cousin. But there are so many ways that we can get involved. But the important thing is that we get involved. So I just love you and your spirit and your passion around that for doing that. So I'm going to give the mic to Dr. Marshall and I'd love to hear what she has to say.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? You could throw up a couple of hearts to say you're fine. Thank you. I loved your interview, Danny. I do plan to post it. And I wanted to tell you that I thought you did an amazing job in reminding those of us who remember certain journalists. And for those who don't know about them, it's a great teaching moment. I'm hoping that when people listen to when they listen to the interview, that they will be motivated to look up some of the names that you list. I mean, you really go way back in pulling out good journalists. I had to laugh at your punch to Ari Melba, but it was a good one. Um, he does get a little carried away. I think that Ari is confused sometimes as to where he comes from. And anyone who follows him and listens to him will understand what that means. And if not, I won't spoil it for you. I'll let you listen. But Danny, I really I think that your interview is a great introduction to people who aren't that familiar with journalists. They're familiar with reading whatever their local newspaper is. And a lot of people will go first to the sports page, and that's if they're into sports, or if the newspapers are online now, so they've cut out different sections, perhaps like fashion and gossip sections. But people in general don't always read the news, quote unquote. And I love that you talked about the journalists who are honest to the extent that, we can tell if they're honest. I liked that you spoke about those journalists, especially those stations. I agree with you. As soon as the program comes on, breaking news. I mean, how much breaking news can we have when each program follows the program before, where the same news that was breaking at 5 o'clock is still breaking at 7 and at 9 and at midnight? And if you happen to be up sometimes, like I am, in the middle of the night, it's still breaking. Yes, whatever happened, like I missed it today, but I heard a few minutes ago that there was a tremendous fire in Chicago. It was breaking when it happened. It is still news now. I don't know enough about it to say if there were injuries. There was a horrible fire in New York today where there was an illegal child care and children were injured. So, yes, breaking news. I was really happy that you touched upon that and kind of made, try to explain to those listening that not everything is breaking news, but that's one way in which various journalists and various news stations have used that term in order to pull people in and to grow their audience. I also liked that you let us know that if we want to know more about journalism or the fourth estate, that you've penned those episodes to your timeline, because I, for one, missed quite a few of them. And I wanted to know how I could go back and listen to them. So I was really happy to hear that. And that's one of the things when I repost or post the interview, I'll make a point of mentioning that, because I'm sure people who didn't experience the fourth estate will want to know where to find it. And so that was just a great, great plug, not only for your passion for journalism and journalists and the news. I also liked that in talking about your future, one of the things that you want to do is to become more knowledgeable about international journalists and international news. Um, and I'm looking forward to you becoming more knowledgeable so that I become. I'm not lazy. I do a lot of reading and listening, but I like the times that I did get to listen to the Fourth Estate. I liked that you and I think Shauna co-hosted with you. I may be incorrect in that fact, but I like that you
Dawn.
Dawn. Okay, I'm sorry. I like that you were exploring the different journalists, the different stations, and I think that your interview is going to enlighten and educate a lot of people. Great job. That's it.
Any response? Thank you so much, Dr. Marshall. I know you shared those a lot of those thoughts with me, and I am glad that you were able to come and share them with Danny tonight because uh, I know it meant a lot to me because it says that her work has made a difference, that the interview did what we wanted it to do. So, Danny, any response from you to Dr. Marshall?
Um, wow, what glowing words, Dr. Marshall. Coming from you, you have to know that you are well respected within this collective, within this body. I'm not sure what I want to say. Um, I am a little bit speechless. I will say that.
Okay,
I
well, if you
appreciate
need a
it.
moment, Mark is up and
Yeah, I think I need.
that's fine. I know.
Thank
That's
you
fine. That's
so much.
fine because I take it as high praise as well. So I'm going to give you a moment. Allie is up and so is Mark. So I'm going to give Allie an opportunity to speak and then Mark. Thanks again, you guys, for coming. Please share and retweet the space. We are kind of highlighting the interview that is available for all of you. But as we always do with me, we chat about the news and other things that are going on, and they don't have to be politically related. You know, if they're affecting the human condition in this country, it matters, and somebody needs to advocate for it. So I'm all for that. So go ahead, Allie, then Mark.
Hi, you guys. Thank you very much, Dee. I'm sorry if I sound a little sleepy. It's late over here. It's 2 something. But I am really, really happy to join you and to see everybody and to join in the discussion. Dee, I also would just like to congratulate you on your new series. It has been lovely and wonderful to hear these interviews. It's not only your, just wonderful skill and humanity and beautiful interviewing skills that come out, but then bringing out the information of different people's journeys and how they've made contributions, to lives of service and lives of dedication, and all under that umbrella of advocacy. It's really beautiful. So it's a really lovely framework. And thank you very much for that. Um, I am a bit tired, so I may not last the whole evening. So I think with you guys, it's just it's late and dark over here. But there have been many really meaningful spaces, and it's I think the thing that is one of the things that's so wonderful about this group is the spaces and how they've been working is the idea of how edifying they are, how much we learn from each other, and the community working together on bringing quality content, and it really has replaced that commercial media system for many of us. So for all of your continued efforts, everybody, and it's just a real joy to see everybody. I'm sorry I'm not on top of my game just because I'm really tired, but but I send much love to you all from across the ocean. Much love.
Well, thank you, Allie, and thank you for, your stamina, for staying awake to join us tonight. I know that, you're dealing with a big time zone gap, and I know that, sometimes you arrange or rearrange your schedule so that you can join us in conversation. And I am always honored by that because I know that, you have in real life stuff that you're dealing with, and the fact that you take so much time out of your life, your day, and rearranging your schedule in really weird, crazy ways sometimes just to join us. And we are always honored. So we want you to take care of yourself, to get some rest. And so if you need to duck out, we certainly understand. But I'm so grateful that you came in and shared with us a little bit tonight. So thank you so very much. And I have a little clip of our friend Allie over there on my YouTube channel too. You have to go and check it out. So a little surprise. It's not a full interview, but just a little clip of some of our past Democracy First conversations. So yeah, guys, keep checking it out. I am doing a lot of different things, just trying to keep people basically, my goal is basically to keep people engaged civically and communally. So I just thank you all for being a part of this process and this journey with me. So next we've got Mark and then Soul Sister.
Good evening, Dee and Dawn. Good to be with you this evening in Advocacy Arena, Democracy First and Good Trouble. It's always a pleasure. I always find myself in, I guess I should say, adverse or obtuse debates and strange spaces because I get the gumption to do so because of home, right? I love being able to come home, but I get the gumption to do so because of everything I learned here in the advocacy arena. So you don't be surprised you find me arguing some medical stuff and debating with people like on just on some
Oh,
logic basis.
Mark, can I stop you right there? Because one of the other things that I wanted to share, it's in the Jumbotron. But remember when we were doing the space the other night and one of your friends came in and you guys had been battling someone over about COVID, and those types of things. And we had a discussion about anti-vax, that type of thing. And we were just
Correct. Yep.
sharing about like media personalities who were anti-vaxxers who have died. And I was sharing like there was a very famous one here in my area. And so I found the article about it, and it happened about a year and a half ago. And I said that in the space, and I found it so that people would know who it was. Lo and behold, and you guys all know that in order to put something in the Jumbotron, it has to be on someone's timeline somewhere. So I just found the article and posted it on my timeline so that I could share it in the nest. Well, who knew it would go viral? Like I have it up there. It's like 77,000 views or whatever, and it blew me away. Of
Wow.
course, yes, a lot of them are in there. Some were like, "This is old" or whatever. So I had to several times, explain to them, "Look, I'm not trying to." amplify sensationalism. I realized this is old, and I gave them the context in which it was shared and tweeted. Of course, some people still, they were going on about that, but it just blew me away, because in Tiff's interview, if you remember, she was like, "You just never know with Twitter. Sometimes you tweet something, you don't think anything about it, and it takes off, it goes viral, and then things that you work so hard to craft and create threads and stuff, and they go nowhere." So this is one of those instances, and it, like I said, it just blew me away. And this is from a conversation that we had in the space that I hosted with you. So, things, what we say and do matters, and we never know what is going to get people's attention. So I'm sorry, but do continue.
No, that's absolutely correct. And I find myself debating someone with 100,000 followers, and I have to block 1,000 people or something like that. It's crazy on this. So you got to pick your battles, and if you really want to say something, make sure to have less than 100,000. But yeah, because the hate mail does come. And no worries about that. As long as you just stick to what you know and say the stuff you feel, you'll be fine. Um,
Stick
but
to that. That's what
three,
we
Ali,
do.
yeah, Ali, thank you so much for always staying up for the support the evening spaces. As a matter of fact, when I do the pop-ups, I think of you to go a little bit earlier so that you can hopefully participate. I know like it's hard, but I do think of you when I do the pop-ups on Sunday randomly. Unbeknownst to me, who else has a pop-up, of course. I did want to talk about Fannie Willis versus Garland, because there's a popular person on Twitter. She goes by Mueller, she wrote. Her name is Allison Gill. I think she's a former prosecutor. I got into a little debate with this week because she was saying why her premise was, why are people mad at Merrick Garland, not Fannie Willis? And so her and I went at it. In good debate, not like not insulting or anything like that, but it was debate nonetheless. And then she did a whole little thread today. But I wanted to ask Danny. I wanted to ask Danny a question. Um, Danny, if you will, because we can get into Fannie Willis a little bit later. I know Dee has a way of evoking like passion from her interviews in particular moments. For me, it was talking about my mother, I think, at some point in the middle. That's when our conversation got really good. When I did the interview on Advocacy Arena, when I was able to talk about my mother a little bit, who's battling cancer.
And Mark was my
Um,
premier interview. Yes.
Absolutely, and it was a great. I mean, you listen to it again, and you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I said that." You're like, "Oh Jesus, what was I thinking? What am I doing?" But it turned out to be a great interview, and I really appreciated the opportunity to just kind of spill a little bit about my passion with law and con law and my and also my experience in law, and also evaluation and analysis and legal analysis. So that's like what I love to do. But Danny, I know these moments that Dee has a way of getting these moments out of you in a very professional yet personal way. It doesn't seem like it's an interview. It seems like it's a big discussion. And that's the part I love about Dee, is that when she talks to you, when we have talks offline, they're like just so cool. As a matter of fact, our talk offline was it was really good. I should have recorded that the day before the interview. But that was a really cool talk too. So I was going to ask you, Danny, did you have one of those moments in your talk with Dee where, and if you did, then what do you remember about it, and if you can highlight that so that give other people something to look forward to, and also just to kind of share a little bit about what you were saying.
Absolutely. And I know exactly what you mean when you say Ms. D will pull information out of you, because she does. When she was prepping me, when we went over the interview the first time, that conversation went over an hour. And then we were just talking, and then we were reminiscing. And then, you know, we were cracking jokes too about, the 2000 presidential election and how Florida,
The
once again,
chads floating in the
right.
ocean.
How Florida became, right? How Florida became the punchline, from every election since, right? Um, and I mentioned that it was Andy Rooney at the end of 60 Minutes. The last few minutes was Andy Rooney. And he would always make these jokes about the state of Florida. Will this be the week Florida learns how to count, right? Because, now that, the election had to go to the Supreme Court, and then Sandra O'Day O'Connor, she decided that, yeah, the court should have a say in how American people should choose a president and that kind of thing. But one thing that I did not mention in the interview, my motivation, or I guess my love for journalism, actually came from watching my mother watch the news. That's how she became informed. To those who might not know, I am firstborn generation here in this country. Both of my parents are from Haiti. So unfortunately, they know what it's like to live under a dictatorship with the Duvalier family, right? So when she did come here, not saying that America was perfect, but it gave her an opportunity to see how politics, how journalism can help shape the kind of country that you live in, right? And that's not something that is happening right now in Haiti. And it's not something that was happening when she left. When the Duvalier, the father, he became president, he said there would be no more elections. And there wasn't. And right before he died, he installed his son. So their country was denied an election. And to those that pushed back, they were killed. America should really understand the privilege of just having a free press. What Russia is doing, we know what China is doing. There are other countries who lived just like them that never get mentioned. And so my mother, she's the one that watched 60 Minutes. I was watching it with her. She was the one reading the newspapers. And so that's how I became informed. And then, of course, being in middle school and high school in the 90s, everything was about Bill Clinton. So you couldn't avoid it. And then the 2000 election happened. And like, okay, why is everybody laughing at us? Like, what did we do? Or what did y'all do? Because I couldn't vote at the time. And so it just kind of morphed into that. So that was really my motivation. That's really how I got tapped into journalism a little bit more. And listening to her speak. Her best friend is Jamaican. So to listen to two immigrant women talk about American politics and compare it to what they left their home country for, it gives you a different perspective. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong or better. It just gives you a different outlook. Some are more grateful. Some just still don't understand. But I'm appreciative of that. So that's it. Did that answer your question? I hope it did.
Oh,
I think
absolutely, and I love the coincidence that both of our mothers were prominent in our conversations.
Yeah.
And
they.
like your mother at 60 Minutes, my
Mhm.
mother got me Black Encyclopedia because I wasn't learning Black history in school. And what I know about law is nothing compared to the context through which, or the lens through which I look at law. And that's totally attributed to my mother.
Yes, and I thought that was interesting as well. Both of you, your passion, I could tell was sparked when we got into the conversations about your mothers, and both of them were a lot deeper than they came out. I don't even know if it came out in the interview, but I knew it was there. Kept pushing for it, but I like things to flow naturally, and I just want to say that all of you guys, including Dr. Marshall, who I've interviewed. Were great interviews and have so much to offer people, and that is that's my passion, is highlighting people who are doing good, meaningful work. And I like to. I'm always drawn to people's passion, so that's like I said, why I'm able to find it, because that's what I'm drawn to, and I'm able to kind of see that in people, and I'm drawn to it, and I want to highlight it. So thank you both for that. Great question, Mark and Danny. I'm glad that you had an opportunity to expound on that, because I know that we did in our prep conversation, and there's so many more things, which is why I kind of like to have these spaces in the evening to kind of highlight the folks that I've interviewed, because there's only so much that we can put. I try to keep them short. So that it gives people enough, keeps them hungry, because all of these folks that I've interviewed are definitely going to be multiple, like series interviews, because they're wealths of information, and there are so many things that I feel that that they need to share, that I want to help them share. So thank you. Great question. And we have Soul Sister, who is up next. I want to thank all of you guys. If you're just coming tonight in Advocacy Arena, I am highlighting the interview that I just finished with Danny, that is now available. And we're talking to her about that, as well as some other things that are going on in the news. So if you haven't listened to it, I encourage you to listen to it. The link is up there in the nest. We've talked about some other things that are going on here in the country, as we always do, because, again, part of all of the reason that I do this is to keep people informed and engaged and inspired. So, Soul Sister, you're next. And anyone who is listening in the gallery, thank you for being here. Please don't be shy. Come on up, join us in the conversation. If you have some questions for Danny, she would gladly take them. And we're going to go to Soul Sister, and we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Miss D. Thank you, Dawn. I'm so grateful to be in this collective space where we're always keeping democracy first and making good trouble in your advocacy arena, Miss D. I want to say that I was excited about tonight's space, and I know you know that because I was calling you like, are you still doing it? It's important to me to I know it's important to me to be able to hear these personal stories that you're doing, that you're highlighting, an opportunity not just to better understand the people who are out here doing work for the betterment of our community. It is also an opportunity to inspire others to get involved. So I just wanted to say that I applaud you, and I'm grateful to be here. I love this new road that you're on, and I can't wait to see where it takes you. And I will be right here cheering you on, supporting you in any way, shape, or form that I can. So I just
What you
wanted
mean
to.
cheer me on? Sister, you're walking down the road with me.
Well, girl, I'll be right there, swinging arms, skipping on down the road. I just wanted to say that. And, it was to the point where I was like, I got to hurry up. I got to get this snow shoveled. And now I'm sitting here dripping wet, and I need to deal with that. But I didn't want to miss a moment of it. And I did. And I was really actively listening for a little bit, but I am here now, and I look forward to this space. And Danny, we love you, and I just can't wait to see what else you're able to bring. You are a consummate professional, and there is something to be said when someone is able to bring out the best in people around them, whether it's you're interviewing them or you're mentoring them. Leadership is about a lot of things, and I've been very grateful and proud to witness your leadership in this collective. So thank you.
So sister, don't do that. No, y'all know I love y'all. I really, really, truly love every last single one of y'all. It's not just one leader here. We're all leaders in our own right. Um, I have a feeling, we've been waiting on you to flourish, to kind of break out a little bit more. For me, my breakout was because I was frustrated. And so I just created a space, and it turned into a series. It was completely organic. I appreciate all the kind words. Truly, I do. I'm very humbled. What's next? I'm not sure. Um, I do know that I want to continue learning about the areas that are unfamiliar. Also create space, create an opportunity for others too. Whatever the Fourth Estate series did for people, if it influenced you to kind of start paying attention, um, even to natural disasters. I think the biggest space or the biggest series that we had within the Fourth Estate series was when we covered the Clintons, particularly Hillary. And I get DMs about that space and those spaces all the time. And it was because journalism was different for that.
So it's making a difference, Danny.
And so, and I think the best part about this journey is that I did not know half of this stuff. I was literally researching it. What does it mean to have journalism in radio? What did that look like before social media? What did it look like before cable news? Um, the power that it yields when it comes to conservatives and how they've used it and how they've weaponized it as well. So there's so many different areas. Um, Geopolitics is not something that I'm familiar with. Um, so that might be something that I might dabble into. But I also look at all the abortion restrictions, and I don't see a lot of media coverage about the people it will affect, the women, the young girls, anyone who identify as female or as a woman. It kind of they get ignored, and I really want to kind of look more into that. um, Look how many mass shootings we had. We're only on the 25th day of the year, and already people are not even thinking about the Monterey Park because what, 3 or 4 more already been. Why is this our new normal? Um, Again, sorry to go after him, but Ari Melber, not everything is breaking news. That mass shootings, those are breaking news. There are so many different areas that we can cover. There's a lane for everybody. So Soul Sister, I'm waiting on you because I'm watching you.
Don't worry.
You
She's on the
no pressure.
schedule. I have, yes, I have a lineup and she's in it. There are a lot of people, so I am so looking forward to it. And she has a very, very interesting story, and I can't wait for her to share this with me so that I can share it with you, because it involves our history, and it's a personal family story. So I won't divulge too much, but I am so looking forward to it. And thank you, Danny, for again just helping us to remember, how important, the media is, how to look at it and make decisions around how we take it in, vetting it, all of these things. And as Dr. Marshall said, you took us to school on what, good journalists were like, and a time in our history when we are. And I would love to help you expand your geopolitical um, knowledge. And there are a couple of things that I did put in the Jumbotron to kind of help with that. And like told you, you want to start looking at things in Germany. Oh, and that's another interview I have coming up. I have a good friend who lives in Europe. So, Allie, I do have more friends than you.
But
But no,
I'd be really excited that, Danny, you're going in that direction too. That's cool. That's great.
yeah,
Let's
but
let's talk.
exactly. And Der Spiegel, of course, would be the German, periodical that I would point you to. And because we're talking about journalism and what you do, I thought it was interesting. I put it up in the Jumbotron, but the Washington Post made a response to Mike Pompeo with his pompousness, and really trying to pick a fight with journalists in the really kind of disgusting way that he presented what he did, and he didn't have to do it that way. And so I think that statement that the Washington Post put out, and the fact that this was about a journalist who was killed in the most heinous way possible. And this man, a CIA, he used to be in charge of the CIA, and basically, just reducing him. It's not like he was important or anything. It was just very disgusting. And I'm glad that the Washington Post has, made a statement, and they had a lot of people helping to amplify it, and we need to continue to amplify it, and just to bring attention to the behavior of Pompeo and many others, because I used to, back a year ago, when I started doing Democracy First, you guys know I used to talk about, the threat of fascism. Well, folks, it is here. It is just not in its horrific stages yet, but we're getting there. It is here, folks. There are so many things to point to that and to show us. So I'm looking forward to interviewing my friend whose family actually grew up during that time. He had grandparents and relatives who actually fought for Hitler, and some of them, and he's clear about it, and he wants to talk about it. And he looks at, we talk about politics all the time because he has the same sense of urgency I do, because you guys know I spent a decade in Germany. I know what this looks like. I have a lot of German friends, some I haven't been in contact with for a while, but many that I do still stay in touch with. So I'm always ringing that alarm bell because, folks, we are here. We're just trying to keep from falling off the cliff because they are really pushing. All of the levers of our government and our democracy. So, Danny, and the fourth estate, as you so often remind us, is in the Constitution for a reason, to inform the people. And that brings me to the other article that crossed my mind, that made me think of you, and that's Peter Baker's little take on the classified documents and acting. When a journalist kind of says, well, people are not going to understand this, it's kind of not the same, but it's like, okay, Peter, here's an excellent opportunity for you to help people understand how it's not the same, as opposed to acting like you're someone in the audience commenting on journalism or whatever. Like, you are it, you have the platform, please do your job. So, um, anyway, we do have Shantae who has come up and joined us, and Gamut. So I want to hear from them. And anytime you want to chime in, my lovely co-host, I know you were a little tired, you had a long work day. Feel free to do that. Okay. All right. So, Shantae.
Hi, Miss D. Don is over here. Hello, ma'am. Dr. Marshall, everybody here. It's just good to be in a space with some good folks. So I just came in because I really was like in the listening phase because I came from the gym and I just changed my clothes because, yeah. And so I'm glad you're doing the space. Advocacy Arena. I like the branding, the new brand, and you still have the hashtag Good Trouble, which is amazing. You're still doing it. And sometimes, Miss D, you just need a break, just to rebrand and just to regroup and everything. So I'm like very happy that, you have your own thing. I think you have a good audience. I think you will continue to have a good audience. We probably have almost like the same audience, but yours is more broader, of course. I'm a little bit more on the dark side half of the time, a little bit on the heathen side, even though I'm a Christian. But
It takes all of us, baby. It takes all of us. And Shantae's on the list and she's coming up soon. So, yes, go ahead.
yeah, so I just say like because we was like serious for a minute, and then we got to the messy part. I'm surprised the the empath, aka your co-host, decided not to come in and speak to the dead because I'm just saying, like, she just be like, I said, what did they say, Don? She's like, well, this is what they say, but like we had a good space yesterday and it was good, and we just talked about strategy for 2024, what they're going to do. All these Senate races are happening, which more people, candidates will be announced for different key Senate races. Some people up for re-election. So we just have to, do everything in our advocacy to do stuff. And I know Sean is going to get mad for saying use your word of mouth, but my word of mouth is actually more feasible than some other folks' word of mouth, but I digress. So it's all about whatever you can do for advocacy, whatever you can do to like help folks, get elected or even try to get to the finish line. Some of us are not good fundraisers, even though I worked in development, but fundraising and be is a lot. It's a whole lot. And so there's fundraising, there's also text banking, there's what is it? Canvassing on the ground. There's also just yeah, phone banking, text banking, volunteer. I think I list all of
Yeah.
possibilities. Yes, all the possibilities of that stuff. Yes, so like it's been a long day, and so you do what you can do to get candidate that you want elected, or at least like close to the finish line. And if they don't, you know, because there's times that I was upset, you know, a certain particular candidate of mine did not get to where they got to. But you know, it's all about wearing your big girl drawers or your big man drawers and just trying to like get, you know, be a good civil servant, or what you say, a civic engager, whatever it is, and just get the candidate elected. And there's more work to be done. It's called incremental change, it's called progress, and we just got to do it. Our founding fathers, and I'm not talking about the ones on Mount Rushmore, they no, I'm talking about people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, John Lewis. I'm talking about people like Mega Evers, Bernard Artiston. I'm talking about A. Philip Randall. I'm talking about those folks, those founding fathers. They didn't quit, because if they quit, like, we wouldn't have the equal rights that we have. You know, that's called incremental change. And so, even though our candidates won't get to the finish line, at least we tried. At least you did your part. Now do the other part and get that candidate, as much as you don't care for them, elected. And then you can always call them, because you are a voter. You have the right to call their office, right to call their reps and be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy. So, but Dee, this is an awesome space. You always host an awesome space. You got the good co-host next to you, the good Don, the crazy Don next to you. So thank you very much, and I'll just be listening.
Thank you so much, and thank you for, taking time out of your schedule, because I know you have a lot going on as well, and, taking time after you had a long day to come in and join us. And I always love your spaces. And I think, like, we don't always have to be alike or do the same thing, but it is important that we're all doing something. So I love um, that you are constantly working. And these are great points that you made, because sometimes we support candidates and they don't win, but it doesn't mean that we don't win, because every time there is a race, we need to have someone in it. They may not, be the winner of that race, i.e., my cousin who tied, who deserved a runoff, who was cheated out of one because we're from a very racist county that decided that they could usurp democracy and get away with it. And essentially they did. But, we're not sitting down. She's not sitting down. She's just regrouping and doing some other things. So it's going to take a lot of us. And every ball we swing at, we won't hit, but we need to keep swinging. And I love that I know the people in here, like yourself and Danny and Mark and Allie, Gamut, all of you guys. I know that you're going to keep swinging. You're invested, you're engaged, and that you work to, ensure that other people become engaged. Thank you for the work that you do. Can't wait for our interview. So excited about that. So you guys will get to hear Shantae, her interview, and we'll have her as our featured guest for one of our next coming advocacy arenas. Because again, like I said, my goal is to highlight all the people doing the work, and you'll learn about some people that you don't see here in spaces. I'm working on getting an aide who lives in our town, who actually, and it's so crazy, I think I may have told this story before. I found out about her through a ride share. And this lady knows her personally. She gave me her number because she knows what I'm doing. And this lady sat at the lunch counters with John Lewis and some of these other people. She has cigarette burns on her back and on her arms. She went to jail with him, and she has a story to tell. And her story, like so many others, are worth telling, because we need. It's important, as you said, Shantae. Like our forefathers, the progress is incremental. And I think sometimes this generation, they want instant change, and change that lasts has never worked that way. I'm really, and maybe this is my age, but but I'm terrified to just, all over and tear it up and just like see what happens because, things just don't work like that. And especially when you're talking about a government, but that's what we have people around here advocating for. Just, doesn't work. Let's just, burn it all down, tear it up. And, as if something magically better will appear. It takes work, and so thank you for that. Thank you for coming and contributing always in such a valuable way, Shantae. And up next, we've got Gamut and then Dr. Marshall.
Good evening. How are you guys doing today? I hope you're having a great week.
We are. How are you? Did you have class today?
I have class every day. I take my
Oh,
classes online, so if I'm at
okay.
home, I'm probably studying.
I am so proud of you,
um,
Gamut. I really am, and I'm wishing you so much success because you too, I know you work a full-time job. You share some of the craziness with us sometimes, and I love that. That we can laugh with you and share a little pain with you, but also to learn about your journey in furthering your education and how you bring stories to us that we wouldn't necessarily hear about. So I've always loved that, and I'm always honored when you come in to share with us. So please do go ahead. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And I mean, I posted yesterday actually something about, just one of the things that I've learned over time from great women of color, doctors, including Dr. Marshall here, Dr. C, Dr. Ruth Green, um, and so many other people, just the way that, uh, even educational textbooks, misrepresent, um, you know, non-white perspectives. It's so crazy. But that is particularly highlighted in my. That's aside from the point of what I was actually going to talk about, which was the Solomon Pena debacle. He was, as I'm sure you guys have heard, it's been all over the news. Um, he was arrested in, because he had hired people to go shoot at Democrat legislators' houses here in New Mexico, which, by the way, is a blue state. So blue states are only blue until they're red. Um, so that happened. In the last couple of days, he was actually denied bond. Um, the judge effectively said there's no circumstances for release that are, in line with public safety. So he will um, remain in pretrial detention. Now, the plot thickens, though. One of the people that he hired um, had like, from my understanding, um, an absolute crapload of fentanyl pills in the vehicle when he was arrested. So it's possible that, this guy is funding his all of his operations off of fentanyl while he is saying how Democrats are doing nothing about it and blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. And then on top of this, the Albuquerque Journal publishes an article a couple of days ago. The headline saying that he's got this complicated history or something to that effect, right? So I read the article, just because I'm curious. I want to know what's going on. Yeah, no, there's nothing complicated about it. He's got anger issues since he was like 14 years old. He has mental health issues. He's an angry person, entitled as hell. Um, and it's actually to the point where his family doesn't talk to him. He's got 19 felony convictions under his belt. He's not a good guy. He got appointed to two, like a ward chair and then something on the Republican committee here in the state. I don't know exactly what. It's like this whole crazy thing, and then our state GOP doesn't want to say anything about it. Meanwhile, it's not just local news, it's not just state news, not just national news. You look up his name, it's international news. There's articles in French, in Spanish, in Portuguese. It's all over the place. That this is such a big deal, and the party that he's a part of can't say anything. I don't know what to say.
I mean, you just think that they can't find any worse characters, yet they manage to keep coming up with them. Correct? I mean, it's just, it's awful, and this is why I say that, like, we're here. Fascism is here. This is what they did. They killed their enemies. Okay, their opponents, which they saw as enemies. Okay, we're here. We actually have people hunting, literally hunting Democratic candidates, going to their homes. One of the ladies, one of the candidates, she was her child. These bullets went through her child's room, and they are being stoked through stochastic terrorism by a lot of MAGA leaders. They're pushing and encouraging this, kind of like the stand by and stand back kind of thing. This is what they're saying. And, I say it all the time. The coup, it didn't start with January 6th and it didn't stop with January 6th. It's still going on. So that's why the advocacy that we have around politics and the attention that we give to how things are covered, which is why I'm so grateful for the work that Danny has done, bringing our attention to how things are covered and the difference. Because there's a generation of people that as Dr. Marshall said, they're going to go have to look up some of these people. They're going to have to revisit what journalism was like, how stories were reported back then, because there's some of them who have only known this 24-hour news cycle, and we just it it's okay if it's 24 hours, but it really does need to be informative and not like infotainment. So thank you so much, Gamut, for bringing that story back to our attention. We need to keep looking at that. And I do love that New Mexico, they really haven't wasted time in gathering these extremists because, again, let's not forget that they were one of the first and only states that I know to date who actually ousted someone from office for insurrection. And we know that there are many around the country in many states that are known, and this should be happening, but it's not. So I give kudos to New Mexico for doing that, and I'm glad that he is going to have to sit in jail and wait till his opportunity to defend himself, of which there is no defense for his behavior. But it is America, and due process is still the law right now. So he needs to have it, but he needs to be held accountable. So thank you so much for that, Gamut. And up next, Dr. Marshall and then Mark.
I just wanted to come back up and give kudos to Shantae for your videos. They have been very informative. I love the questions that you're posing. I hope you're going to do more. I think that people who haven't been in your space will, well, I'm hoping, but I know I've learned even more from your videos and from the questions that you're asking regarding the different candidates or various topics that perhaps the candidates are following or are not following. I just wanted to let you know that you're being seen, your videos are being seen, and I hope you'll do more of them. And Danny, you do mention your mother in the interview, and you mentioned you're watching 60 Minutes. You actually covered probably more information than you think you did. That's why it was such a great interview. Well, that's one of the reasons. I hope people will go and listen to it. That was it. Thank you, Dee, for bringing me back up.
Well, thank you. And I'm so glad that you had an opportunity because I know you told me that about Shantae's videos. And I'm glad you had an opportunity to say it while she could be in here and hear you say it. So, Shantae, any response?
Thank you, Dr. Marsha. No, I appreciate it. And I thank you for spreading your knowledge, and educating us and telling your life experience living in the deep south, because my mom is from the deep south as well. So like, and she's from the Carolinas per se. So I really like listen and appreciate you. Every time you speak, I don't interrupt. I like to listen because I'm should learn how to listen more, which I'm still working on. I'm still young, not that young, but I'm still young. And so I really like appreciate, you saying that to me, because sometimes I do, scare the crap out of people, but I address the real because like, this pandemic really, and we're still in the midst of it, open up wounds of how we vote and how this country vote and their history of voting, people voting either for policy, which is rare, or people just vote for, privilege. And that's the questions that you want to pose, because it's just like, what the hell is going on? Like, why is there still incremental change in 2023 that makes absolutely no sense? But this is where we are. So I just have those questions. And why are you voting like this? I even got questions about my governor with the crazy moves that she make. Jesus Christ. But it's near here and near there. But I really appreciate you saying that, Dr. Marshall. It means so much. So thank you so much.
Well,
Well,
just a point on, I agree with you that you scare some people. And that's why I love your videos, because I think that people who might pop into the space that you have and hear you might think, oh no, I don't think I want to listen to this lady. But when they look at the videos and listen to you, you are so clear, so on point, and you present the issue, whatever the issue is that you're advocating for, whatever the questions that you have, you are so clear and so on point that anyone who might have been intimidated or anxious about you in the space or questioned your knowledge in the space, when they look at the videos and listen, you can see the passion. At least I see the passion in your eyes, in your face. I hear it in your voice, and it is crystal clear. So I just wanted you to know that. It's much, not easier, but I think telling you so that you could hear how effective you are, as opposed to me. I could always, it's just something, I'm happy that you're here while I'm here so that I could let you know how powerful I think the videos are.
well, I'm happy too because I know that she told me that, so I'm so glad that she had a chance to tell you, and this is coming from a teacher, you guys. So, like I said, we appreciate you so much, and I think you know that, and like I said, I'm glad you're all here tonight, and I hope that you will share and retweet the space for those who have not been able to join us. And I am grateful for my co host here tonight who has graciously given of her time and adds so much value to this space. She has her own, she's has some great spaces, and she co hosts other great spaces, and I'm honored that she takes the time out of her week, which is also busy, to do this with me. So thanks, Dawn. I'd like to give you an opportunity to chime in if you want, and then we'll go to Mark and we'll start to go into our wind down phase now. And, give people an opportunity if they want for some last words or thoughts.
Always, as always, you are the brand. You are
Oh, was
advocacy.
that me?
No, no, she was talking to me. You just ready to come off that mic, Mark?
Hello?
You're next, Mark, after
Oh,
Dawn.
okay. Oh, okay. Well,
Pay
sorry, sorry,
attention.
sorry. Oh, okay. That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Okay.
Ladies first. Ladies first. No, no, just kidding. No, I wanted to allude to what Dr. Marshall said. And Shantae, I remember, well, she knows, and hope you don't mind me telling this story. We used to, she was, rolls out, everything for the BP. And the way I came about Shantae was with her and Jeff, DC, and Lynn. I was everyone thought I was a bot. I had this is my actual second Twitter account because I forgot the password to the very first one that my stepson had made for me. And so I remember I was always in her mentions and agreeing everything that she said. And we used to I would go back and forth with, certain people. And one day she just stood up for me, like, because I was like, I'm not a bot, but I didn't know how to really decorate my page or, become a person on social media. I was skittish like anyone else. But the thing about Shantae, she knows that I remember when she started her videos. I forgot how many thousands. You had a few thousand followers, but not very many, not like you do now. And before we go to bed, I remember she only had like two or three people watching her videos, and Kevin and I would watch. Like, where's that girl that fought for us? And she followed me. That's the one that fought for me. Saying she's not a bot. She's been on here and everything else. So before we would go to bed, I was sitting there, I'm like, no, she hasn't came on tonight. Well, we would sit up and watch, the evening news and have a little talk and do whatever we do before we go to bed. And we're like, we're not gonna. Well, maybe something's wrong. So I'll DM her. I said, let me DM her. Are you doing video? I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Give me about a half hour. It's like 11:30. We're like, oh Lord, we're gonna stay up and watch Shantae. We know it'll be there in the morning, but we were just one of the very few views, so we didn't want to not go and not show up. It's like, okay, we're gonna hang on. If she could just get it done. Well, if I don't see you till tomorrow by midnight, and let me tell you about Shantae. The thing about her, I thought, like, if I didn't hang on, um, she would hurry up and get it done like at 11:54. It's posted. So that's the thing about Shantae. But so she's always so I'm so proud of you. And for you to be young, you're mature. No matter how raw you are, you can do this thing. You are a leader, and don't let anyone tell you just because you're young, you know what you have set out to do. You have the talent to do it and see it all the way through to completion and look at how you've grown now. So I just had to put that out there just to co-sign on some of that. And Danny, you already know as well, finding your light and that small, sultry voice of yours that you have. But it is big and mighty, especially off the cuff and when you've got that emotion as well. Don't let anyone tell you you bridge the gap. You have our elders in the room. You also have are the Gen X and Zennials. Who do we pass all of this to? It goes to you all, the millennials, the Gen Zs. You have to pass the torch, and you all are well beyond your years. So just proud of the work that you have done and that you continue to do. And Danny, I'm looking forward to see what more you're going to do. I know you'll come with the fire. So I just want to, and Gambit, you're back in school. You're doing what you need to do. We want to hear more from you. We need to hear more from the youth, you guys, because maybe we're missing something. And it seems like I mean, and day after day, it seems like time goes faster. So we just appreciate your wealth of knowledge, everything that you're bringing in, and helping us keep up with the times. Because sometimes we lose our way, we get stuck in our ways sometimes. So just proud of both of you women, Black ladies, Black women, and Dr. Marshall, thank you so much for everything that you bring as a historian, as a teacher, as an educator, as um, a matriarch. I sure we should appreciate everything that you do. We're so proud of you to even want to come on this Bird app. So we just appreciate you. Thank you so much. I don't want to go into too much. Go ahead, Dee. Thank you for giving me a minute.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So we've got Mark up next, and then Allie, and then Danny, our guest, whose most recent interview is up in the Jumbotron. So Mark, then Danny.
Yes, I there's more stuff coming out about Florida and African American history. This is now gaining a
Oh, they got a lawsuit today, don't
and
they?
there's a national movement for well, I mean the MAGA Republicans are now, some of them are saying that African American history is irrelevant because it's American history, um, which is interesting because that's what we've been calling it. But now they're calling it, but they're not meaning the same thing we're meaning.
They're
And
trying to
what it brings me
hijack
to,
our words
while
and our meaning again.
everybody was speaking, I know that in history, we always talk about seminal cases like, and I always talk about it too, like Dred Scott in 1857 and Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896 and Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. But there was this little old case. Well, it wasn't so little. It was actually a big case before 54. It was in 1938. It was Lloyd Gaines. And Lloyd Gaines went to a small black college. I forgot where Lincoln University was. He was born in Michigan, but he went to a small college and called Lincoln University, and he applied to law. He was very smart, um, bright kid his whole life. Um, One of the smartest in his class his entire life. He applied to the University of Missouri School of Law, and they didn't know little old Lloyd was. So they admitted Lloyd into the University of Missouri School of Law, and then when they found out he was black, they were like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa."
What
And
have we done?
they were like, "Whoa!" And just let me stop right there. 'Cause let me reiterate what I just said. Lloyd Gaines was one of the brightest students at his university and in his class at all times in his life, and he clearly was one of the brightest applicants that the University of Missouri had at their School of Law in 1935, and they did not let him in. So it became a Supreme Court case in 1938. And so the Supreme Court kind of decided that, well, actually, it's a complicated resolution. The Supreme Court nudged the state of Missouri. They had to make an equal school for black students as they did for white students, exactly, young one. Um, and um, and that was Charles Hamilton Houston's one of his biggest cases. That was before he what was that? While he had the young student Langston, uh, excuse me, Supreme Court Justice Thurgood, not Langston. I was thinking Langston Hughes. See, Dr. Marshall, you got me thinking of Langston. Yeah, Thurgood, but he was still heavily in appellate cases. And so what this whole, because Ben Crump is taking up the mantle in Florida and bringing lawsuits against the state of Florida. Hopefully he gets. Well, actually, not hopefully. I know he's going to get like one of the top appellate teams in the country. It's not going to be Ben Crump doing the appellate work. Just so you guys know, he's the figurehead. He's going to get some of the best appellate lawyers to bring this case against the state of Florida. And I think this has to be a wreck shop case. I don't think this could be a little case. I think they need to like destroy that whole woke bull crap.
Yeah, the destruction of history, African American history,
Yeah,
and just the war on education that they're waging.
right. And they have to destroy the whole thing though, so it doesn't come back up. So it can't be just an isolated case. It needs to be a seminal litigation that goes out. I mean, when I say seminal, it means it's like Roe versus Wade, like landmark. But the seminal case of Roe versus Wade is Griswold v. Connecticut. So when I say seminal, it means things that come out of it become landmark cases. So Lawrence v. Texas and Roe versus Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood are the progeny of Griswold v. Connecticut, which was the contraceptive case in state of Connecticut. This is that kind of case right here, where that whole thing can be destroyed on procedural grounds, which is the only thing beholden to the Supreme Court. They're not going to go with substantive due process. They're not going with anything that's not in the Constitution. So if it's not the 14th Amendment with equal protection, if it's not, enumerated in the Constitution, this Supreme Court is not going for any kind of civil rights whatsoever. So, but this is the kind of case that could be that case. So that's how important this stuff is, along with the election laws that are coming up. This case, and it almost makes you glad he did it. It almost makes you glad, like, you know what? I know you're saying there's a couple lessons in there that that you don't like, so you want to like end Black history, but you ended Black history or African American history in your state. Whether it doesn't matter whether you didn't like two lessons, you ended the whole thing. But you teach European history, you teach Japanese history, you teach Italian history, you teach Spanish history. I'm sure all those histories include everything that African American history included. Because humans are human, and human people are going to do human things. So when you teach human history to people, you're going to be teaching humanity and what and all that it encompasses throughout history. It's not just misogynist. I mean, there's been anything that's happening now between human beings was happening 1,000 years
Your
where
mic,
you
Mark.
encompass a
Yeah.
grand. I'm sorry, my.
Yeah, you're good now. Hmm.
Oh, anything that encompasses human interaction with people throughout generations is going to encompass all kind of behaviors, whether you like them or not. But that's not the point. The point is you teach history and the way the things have happened and the way they occurred and the consequences derived therefrom. So, if I'm a black student, I have to learn about European history, which I learned about some ungodly things that Europeans did up there. And I can't learn about African American history. You're not only devaluing my life, but you're disenfranchising me from my own history, and also handicapping Americans, young white Americans, young brown Americans, and young people of color of knowing what the true history of America is and why we have these different cases in these different stages of America that have happened and why they've come to be. So that being said, I'm absolutely glad that Mr. Crump, the so-called AG of Black America. I think he's just he used to be it's kind of funny his story. He was a what they call an ambulance chaser in Florida, but he had a friend of a friend that was the father of Trayvon Martin. And no matter what people call him, you can call him an ambulance chaser, you can call him an accident attorney, or you can say anything you want. But if it wasn't for Attorney Crump, that case would have never got national attention because it took several months for that case to get to California so that we knew what happened to Trayvon Martin. I mean, it took like 5 months. And Mr. Trump he was screaming and hollering and saying, "This ain't right. This ain't right." And they're not even trying to do nothing about it. It took him and national outrage for them to even bring the case. And then they brought that crazy case where the prosecutors were half in, half out. It was disgusting how the prosecutors presented that case because I know damn well that Trayvon Martin's stand your ground rights to George Zimmerman. He was the attacker. He was the aggressor. He had no right to stand his ground. He provoked the damn conflict that he sought to hide behind and say, "I stood my ground." So, but the prosecution didn't mention anything about Trayvon Martin standing his ground because they didn't talk like he was alive. They just did a case. They didn't prosecute the case for Trayvon Martin's life and the justice for his life. They just went through the motions. That's why it was three of them, and one did the opening statement, the other did the closing. Nobody ever does that. You have one prosecutor be the voice of reason to the jury. Everybody knows that. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that this history and what Crump is doing in this case is so important. It's going to be one of those cases that's going to go down in history as a case that destroyed this onslaught of this white rage and this white supremacy pushback against the Obama election. And I still think it's related to President Obama being elected as a president. It started there. It was simmering before that, but when Obama got elected, we saw this onslaught of things occurring in a more aggressive and expeditious pace of this fascism, as you were calling it, D, this fascist pace. It became more expeditious. They only have five. And then now they're starting to cheat now. Now they're like, fuck it, we do anything to get the advantage and get this power because we can't ever have a black man be president again or a black person for that matter. So again, it reminded me of the gang. I go all the way to 1938 with this Gaines case in Charles Hammond in Houston, and y'all should look it up and just Google it. Like it's a so interesting case, and I think if memory reminds me correctly, I think Lloyd Gaines disappeared. Nobody ever found him before he was able to start law school. He had to go to the black law school, and I don't think anybody. I think he might have been murdered because they were so mad that he had changed the law in Missouri that they had to make a black law school because separate at that point was still equal because of Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896. So remember, separate but equal wasn't partially overturned until 1954. And I say partially because all of Plessy versus Ferguson didn't involve separate but equal, but that's the part that was overturned by Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka. Some of it still actually stands, but it wasn't connected to separate but equal. So some of Plessy was procedural. The substantive part of it was separate but equal. And that's what Thurgood Marshall said. Separate is inherently unequal. So with that, check out Lloyd Gaines and Charles Hamilton Houston. Great story. It should be made a movie, honestly. It's some of the forgotten history that, again, as we continue from what we talked about earlier this week, Floridian kids and most kids actually in history don't ever learn about Lloyd Gaines. They don't ever learn about Homer Plessy either. And regular old dude, Homer Plessy, that was working the railroads, right? From New Orleans. Right down the street, there's a big plaque for him. He grew up right down the street from where I'm living right now. And certainly they don't learn about Dred Scott. They want to forget about Dred Scott like it never didn't happen. But again, history is the preeminent function of how we get over this stuff, right? It
Right.
is,
It matters.
that's why the CRT thing was so important, and how they extrapolated it into Black history. Now they're like, we don't even want to learn about Black history. We want to call it American history. That way we can shape it the way we want to shape it. We already started, like,
Right.
saying, hey, there's African people voluntarily became like, indentured servitude, and became indentured servants, and wanted to, and were happy, right? And we're happy to be working in such a great country.
Hmm. Right.
So
Well,
that's why they do the thing they do. And like I said before, at every time there's a state or a an era where there's inclusion of 5 to 10 years where there's inclusion in our society, after injustice, 1776, 1865, early 1900s, 1954, 1968, 1968, 65, 64, 65, 68. Every time there's these gangs, there's just like backlash of white supremacy. And we're,
right.
like I
It's
said
called the white
before, we're
lash.
in the
Every
midst of that right now. And this is the new escalation of it, the erasure of Black history or Black American history as far as American history, because they want to homogenize it to make it seem like everything was always cool, and that American history started in 1776 and the principles that started this country apply to everybody and always had.
Right. Well, thank you so much, and we look forward to you following the work that Crump and his practice has begun. Because it's so funny because the importance of someone bringing a lawsuit against what he had done, because it was truly illegal. So I thank you for that little bit of history lesson for us. And we all know and understand that history matters. It's important because, when you don't know it, you're doomed to repeat it. So it is really incumbent upon us to continue to fight for it. So we do have a few hands up. We're getting into our wrap up stage. I'm going to go with Danny, Dr. Marshall, and then
Thank you. I wasn't sure if Allie was before me, but I'll go ahead and go really quick. I just wanted to say thank you again for all the kind and glowing words, everyone. Um, Definitely, I believe in giving people their flowers while they are still here to see and smell them and enjoy them. So I just wanted to give my flowers to Miss D, because I think you have motivated and you encouraged pretty much everyone in Democracy First of what you and Eugene started, and to watch this new journey unfold. I think we're all ready for this ride. Um, to Dawn, to those that don't know, Dawn was the one that was quietly encouraging me in DMs to start a space, and don't be afraid to kind of go out there. So I have to say thank you to her. Um, and she does not get enough credit for being loyal and being encouraging. When she is your friend, you got somebody on your side at all times. She was also with me co hosting the Fourth Estate series. Um, she was allowed me to call her. We were on the phone for a long time. I was able to, kind of work out my ideas with her. So it happened just because of me. Dawn had a lot to do with that. And to, yes, Shantae, she's also another one of the first, maybe like the second or the third person that I followed. Yes, I love her videos. She keeps it raw, she keeps it real. Love that. And again, to Dr. Marshall, because I think she is the best teacher that we have. I love how she also allows herself to be accessible, so we can ask questions, engage with her. Um, that doesn't always happen, and so it's a privilege. And so I just want to again thank you for the space, Misty.
Well, I want to thank you guys. And for those of you who may have come in late, Advocacy Arena, this is our midweek space. And tonight we were featuring Danny, who did an awesome interview with me. And we are highlighting the work that she did in the Fourth Estate along with Dawn. It is up in the Jumbotron. It is on YouTube. It is also on Spotify. And I do encourage you guys to listen to it. Look, please subscribe. I have a lot of other exciting interviews and things in store. And I do appreciate like people talk about democracy first, but again, I always tell you guys, you, and I mean the collective you, are what made democracy first so wonderful. So I couldn't have done it without you. And I appreciate you talking about Dawn, because sometimes people, you don't have to always be out front. To lead and to do good things. I am someone, and Dr. Marshall says this all the time, and it's my sentiment. I am very happy. I have a friend who's always saying, you need to run for something. No, I will find someone who I think is suitable and good, and I will do everything I can to push them and pull them across the finish line and help. And I am happy in that capacity. We just have to find our lane and our work, and it's good. You don't always have to be the face. You don't have to be out front. You can be supporting, encouraging, and still make a great difference. And Danny just explained to you how that happens sometimes, because it takes all of us. And I thank you for that, Danny. And I, like I said, am looking forward to another interview with you. Looking forward to the work that you're do however you decide to do it. You just keep us informed and let us know, and we will be supporting you because we know it's going to be fantastic. So up next we've got Dr. Marshall, then Allie. I'm going to give Allie, if you don't mind, I'm going to give Trans an opportunity. She hasn't spoken, and then I'll go to you, and we're going to start our wrap up phase. Okay, Dr. Marshall, you have the floor.
Okay, I wanted to ask Mark a question. Lincoln University is in Cheney, Pennsylvania. Just wanted to make that comment. But I wanted to ask Mark, I know that Attorney Crump is filing a lawsuit. I also know that the governor of Virginia, he hasn't changed his stand exactly, but he backed off a little bit from banning Black history. So my question is it possible for Attorney Crump to include another state that's doing maybe not the same thing that Florida is doing? Or is it better to just focus on the one that's most egregious?
It's better to focus on the case at bar, meaning you're in. He's a lawyer and lawfully licensed to practice in Florida. Pro
Okay.
hoc he gets pro hoc vice everywhere else. Also, there was a Lincoln University in Missouri back in the 1930s. I'm not sure if it's there anymore, but that's where I think Lloyd went. And the Supreme Court did rule in his favor. They said that the Missouri had to make a separate but equal school for Black students. But they sent a lot of the how that happened down back to the lower courts. But before any of this, before the NAACP was able to go any further, um, Lloyd Gaines disappeared in Chicago and was never heard from again. So the NAACP was unable to pursue anything that happened. University of Missouri offered Lloyd Gaines an honorary degree in 2006. And the Missouri Supreme Court issued him a posthumous law license. Thanks to Khalil for sending me that DM that gave me some background information on that. I hadn't talked about Gaines in a long time. I just like I said, I just going off the top of my head and it's reminding me of the Gaines case. But there was the Lincoln University I was referring to was in Missouri, I believe.
Yes, there is one in Missouri. I always excuse me. I always thought the one in Missouri was white. I didn't know it was an HBCU. But there's also one in Pennsylvania. But thank you for clarifying in terms of Attorney Crump's privilege in Florida as opposed to elsewhere. And also, it makes sense that he's on one case. I'm sorry, my voice is just leaving me, so I'm gonna be quiet now. Thank you, Mark.
Well, thank you. And I know it's getting late and we are going to be wrapping up. And that was a great question and a great case to present to us to help add to our knowledge. And again, thank you, Khalil, for sharing the resource that we can and add depth to what Mark shared. Again, this is what I say. You guys make this community what it is. Together, we're awesome, and I love you guys. So thank you so much for that, Khalil and Mark, you for sharing that. And like I said, I know we can count on you following this case and keeping us, updated on it because it is very important. And this actually, it'll come out in our interview a little bit more, but this is one of the areas that my cousin is taking up to work in because locally here, all across Tennessee, we have a similar push in our educational system as they do in Florida. It's not quite as severe. It's not getting as much attention, but it's still being done. So that's important. That's why it's important for us to talk about this because we already have seen the pattern. We know how they work. They try something one place, then they try it, they get away with it, and then they do it in another place. So, in the county where my cousin ran, they are now busy taking books off the shelf, deciding what teachers can teach. Here in the county where I live, at the beginning of the school year, kids couldn't even check out books because they had passed legislation that, caused teachers to have to spend more time going through their books, not in the library, but in their classroom to make sure that they weren't on this list that they have started to circulate. And again, the lists are all about basically taking away books that help children of color, whether they be Black, Asian, just minority, of telling their stories and their histories. And we know that this is not leading to a good place. They burned books in Nazi Germany, so. There is a very, very active war against education and particularly certain areas of education in this country. And it's like if they can disappear this information, it's easy for them to repeat some of these things that happened in the past because people won't have a reference for them. They can't go back. They will not be taught these things in school. So when it's happening here and now, some of the kids in these younger generations, they may think this is the first time, and they may not even see certain things coming. But this is how history helps us, because we know how they did the things that they did in Nazi Germany. And I'm telling you, they're doing the same things here. And I know I'm preaching to the choir in a sense, but I think it needs to be said. And I appreciate you guys so much for understanding that and helping us to recognize that every day, in the way that you share the information that you provide, and just like I said, just staying engaged. So thanks again so much. Up next, we've got Trans. Thank you for joining us today. And then Allie, and we're going to start to wrap up. And I want to thank you guys again for joining Dawn and I tonight for an awesome space to help amplify the work of Danny in her Fourth Estate series, and help encourage her in her future endeavors, to let her know. That's one of the questions I asked Danny, if she felt like her work made a difference. And her first response when we were just talking on the phone just blew me away. It was so beautiful and so Danny like. She said, well, I don't think that's for me to decide, you know? And I just had to tell her, well, I think the people who participated have already decided, because they're clamoring for more. They're telling you how important it was, how engaging and informative. So, yes, Danny, your work made a difference. And I know that what you do in the future is going to continue to make a difference, because you're working from an area, you're advocating from an area of passion. And that's what I love about you guys. So, Trans, happy to have you here tonight. We're going to hear from you, and then Allie, and then my lovely co host, and we're going to wrap. And I thank you for being here this evening.
Um, Hello, can you hear me? Hi, I just want to make sure you can hear me
Yes.
properly. Okay. Hi, Miss C, and thank you for letting me talk in your space. And hi to everybody. And yes, and hi to the Dawn. And yes, and but it's like something while we are like also and rightfully so worried about international, I mean national affairs here currently in the States, like and with different laws and everything. I feel that and I think concerning the certain alliances, and because I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but the South African government is actually friends with Russia, and which is why they did not condemn Russia in front of the what do you call it, United Nations for the invasion of Ukraine. So this week, the Minister of International Relations, her name is Naledi Pandor, and she welcomed like some kind of Russian South Africa, and they have arrangements to actually.
Lavrov. I put it in the nest. It's something that we need to look out for. I put it in the nest for a trans.
Yes, ma'am, and yes, so it's like, and next month they're planning on bringing more ships to Russia, and I mean not to Russia, to South Africa, to do some kind of training and bring more ships, and despite this, the ANC government care, and also the Minister of Defense Thandi Modise said that it's normal for South Africans to welcome like foreign ships to the country, for foreign like, and it's like no, it's like, so I don't like how the ANC likes to talk to us as South Africans as if we don't know that dirty little tactics, and and I'm just like so the world needs to know about the ANC, and the American government needs to become aware of like the true where the allegiance of the ANC government lies, that they might be a possible terrorist threat to American national security, and I always like spreading awareness on that, and so yes, and I think I'm done talking, and please kindly share the post. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Trans. And I appreciate that you can bring that international perspective to us, because we all know that it is important for us to not only, it's important for us to discuss the things going on here, but we also have to keep a lookout for the things going on the international stage, because our democracies at this point are all interconnected. When one falls, the others fall. When one is weakened, the others are weakened. When one is strengthened, the others are strengthened. We're all interconnected. And it is important for us to not only see the things that are going on here, but abroad as well, because they do affect us. We're global now, and that's not a bad thing. But we have to understand, and I appreciate that you talk about the ANC, because, there was a time when we spoke of it differently. But this brings me to, what I'm looking forward to the conversation with my friend in Germany, because this is what happened in Nazi Germany when they had killed most of the Jews, and when it was time for accountability, many of them fled. And then what some of them did is like what some of the GQP have done when they get called out, or when members in their group start getting in trouble. They start going on their tours to kind of disassociate themselves with the worst thing were maybe members of their party or them. And they did the same thing in Nazi Germany, to the point that some of them kind of rebranded themselves, and began working in places in government and in industry and those types of things. So even when it was the Americans came in and took over, some of this stuff was still going on there. So it is important for us to understand that, um, you know, uh, we have to be aware. So let me just leave it there. And I'm going to wrap us up because I'm getting a little punchy here. And thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. And I'm so glad your voice lasted for us, Dr. Marshall. So happy to have you here with us throughout the entire space. I'm going to hear from Allie, and then my lovely co-host, Dawn.
Thank you, guys. I just wanted to say that it is deeply moving to be here with you. And to look through, I always scroll down the page and see the different souls that are in this group together, and how we make up a group of people who are deeply concerned about what's happening in the world overall, and specifically the role of leadership that our country takes in this world. And we are in very serious times, the most serious times perhaps we've been in since the Second World War, but with totally different technology and a totally different world than it was then. And the gravity of it is very, very severe. So when I see us all working together as a group and bringing together our different areas of expertise, our different areas of interest, and our passion for this collective work together to make a difference, to try and save the future for our children, and to try and save the future for the world as we know it, it is gravely important that we continue this work together. I'm really moved to be together with you guys, always. And it is something that when you look back from other continents and you look back at your home, you look back at the other eyes from outside, you see it even more. When you see people suffering in situations where they have no voice whatsoever, and where they are simply at the mercy of whatever group is in power, wherever they happen to be at that point in their lives, versus the abilities that we have in the United States to be able to speak, to be able to study freely, for women to be able to speak, for men to speak, for us to be able to speak together, to unite our powers together, and to say what we want our future to be. and to take the good parts of a deeply flawed system that was set up, but was set up with enough tools that we can make it plausible and workable for us in the future. Let's do that together. And let's stay really concentrated on having it be constructive work together, that our time spent together, including exhorting each other and helping each other through joy and love, but also through dedication to keep this country together and going forward. We have very nefarious powers at work. I don't say that in a mysterious way. I say it in a very practical way. Long-term plans that have been put into effect and unfortunately have been successful because the vast majority of white Americans who have been in power for the majority of these last decades, or since the beginning of this country, but who have been in power and seeking to maintain that power as the shift in the demographics of this country have changed, are at the point where they are militarizing themselves to try and maintain that white power. We are talking just about power because it's not a majority. It's not a majority of individuals. An effective coalition of the other groups who are not those descendants of white Europeans can be in power and will be the majority within a decade in this country. And what we're seeing is the militarized end of that period. People never give up power voluntarily, very rarely, unless they can see ahead into the future for their own children and what they want to see happen for their children. And so the dedication that we have is working as a group to have it be constructive work together, to have it be always centered on that goal. And we can use words like fascism. We can use words like, the atrocities that are going on, violence that's going on, the different things that are happening, but let's not become hardened to them. Let's hear them for what they are. We are killing each other. We are killing our children. We are killing our future. We must stay together and keep working together on it. We must be effective agents of change. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have incredible leaders that have come before us. The most important leaders in this country have always been Black Americans, always. The civil rights movement shows us the way. Those leaders show us the way, how they made changes. And forgive me for evoking of people like Fred Hampton, who was murdered at the hands of white authority figures. But speaking of the idea of working in coalitions, Malcolm X, after he returned from the Hajj, working together in coalitions. Dr. King, working together in coalitions. And certainly our more recent leaders, such as John Lewis and many, many, many others. There's the incredible women leaders that have also gone before us. Shirley Chisholm, there have been many, many leaders that have gone before us and have shown us the way. And at this point in history, the women who are showing us the way are Black women. Black American women are the most intelligent voters. Look at the statistics. We all must look at the statistics. We white Americans, and I'm one of them, must look at those statistics. The information is there for us. And the idea that this idea of cognitive dissonance, where we can pretend, we can imagine, we can ignore what reality is that's already here, we are militarized and we are already killing each other. Our children are being killed. We are killing our children. It does not make any sense. It is the only way we can understand it is as a vie to maintain power. This fascination with guns. People are making money off of it. Specific people are making money off of those guns. That's why Americans think they need guns. Living in other parts of the world where guns are prohibited, you know that it's not true. I grew up with guns as well. I know it is not true. But people make money off of it. They are making money off of death. And that will continue until we stop them from doing that through legislation, through legal means. And we must stay active and we must move quickly. We don't have time. We don't have time to fight with each other over silly things. We need to stay constructive and go forward and respect each other and listen to each other's voices, listen to each other's expertise. And the most informed, the most powerful, the most significant group of voters in this country for the last decades are Black women. They are leading us. We must follow them. Let us thank you so much for all of us who've been able to come together in this group as a group of people working together with mutual goals, because it is for the future. It's for the future of our children. We have a possible window of opportunity to avoid a huge amount of violence, but we are on the precipice of that. And it is not an exaggeration to say that. Do not become hardened or forget the idea of the capital being desecrated by white people who have managed to buy this idea that they may have a majority who would fight to keep themselves in power. I don't think they do. But the longer that the propaganda goes on, the longer that we have people like who are now in control of the House and what they're repealing and how they're trying to control committees, all of this, we must stay engaged now. I know many people are tired, but we must stay engaged and continue to fight because we're fighting for our future, and it is urgent that we do that. We have to do it. Thank you for letting me speak on it. I often feel like we watch TV, we numb ourselves to the reality of what's going out, or we try and take care of our own families. We don't listen to other things, but the reality is there are many things falling apart around us. We can ignore that for a while, and then when it comes to our doorstep, we will not be able to ignore that anymore. And it's right there, folks. It's right there. So let's continue to work together. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to work together with all of you on these issues, and send you lots and lots of love. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Allie, and we certainly appreciate you. So go ahead, Dawn. We're going to wrap up and thank you guys.
Well, thank you, Dee. It's hard to top that, Allie. I sure appreciate all of you for coming out this evening and just joining us. Just for tonight, it was supposed to be kind of like a happy hour, but we still were able to highlight Danny and the future projects. We can't wait to see what she's working on. And like I said in Father Khalil's space right before the beginning of the year, I do believe what we're going to do for 2023. I know that my job is sowing seeds. And I say that because we don't always have to be in the forefront. Myself, as far as spaces, I prefer things that I have a stomach for, something that it only at certain times. It must be timely. It must be something that is important to discuss. And everyone has something to say, but it just has to be much like Rick's yesterday. We spoke about veterans. Charles McGonigal, spoke about the Pence documents. Such a great discussion. If you don't know, go to Rick has no name, and we told our stories, and there's many stories to tell. And I highlight Geechee. He's been asking for your story. Sometimes they get lost in all of the chaos that's going around in the United States and abroad. Fascism is on the rise, authoritarianism. We have to be careful. I mean, it was just like what Trans brought up, and I saw that earlier. The first thing I saw this morning, Trans, was that article, and I sent that out to a few this morning. What's going on in South Africa, and Roth coming in. I can't, and they are open visas, and they're looking for to come in through the Black Sea as well. We have to pay attention to Germany and France, and we are going to eventually have a space about geopolitics. It's there's a hunger for it, there's a craving for it, and it's coming. It will come up. We just have to be mindful and understand what some of these things are about. Thank you, Danny, for the fourth estate, because it has opened my eyes. Just your passion and just being upset with what's going on in the media, the new merger with CNN and Time Warner and what is it, Comcast. And we see what the difference is in the cryons, and we're losing a lot of our hard hitters that can go against some of this. And it looks like there's no network to turn to, or we don't have our own in the Black community. So we need to pay attention to these things. I don't want to sound too random because, much like you, D, I'm getting punchy, but I just appreciate everybody for coming. And this year, I'm going to sow seeds. If there is something that you have to say that you want to say, you need encouragement, you are shy, don't feel free. Some of us have been there and we've done that. And we're on to new things, new beginnings. And we can't just do it here on Twitter. It has to be done on other platforms because we have become the fourth estate. And Denny, thank you for your spearheading the idea for that. That's what we have to do. We can't just stay here on Twitter. Elon has this one. If we have to go to Spoutable Post, some of these other platforms, YouTube, I I'm about to make a TikTok. I never thought I would, but we have to get the message out there and support each other. Everybody, if you please get a chance, and I'm going to advertise you, D, please follow. She needs a few more followers on Advocacy Arena on YouTube so that she will be able to create more. She needs to be able to do a live. This is important. So she's the first one in the jumbotron. Please follow, subscribe to the channel, and just make sure you amplify as much as possible. Pass it along to your friends. She's just starting off, but let's just support each other. This is what we do as a collective, as a community. And thank you for supporting our coalition. We can all say we only support a certain group or say we have support a certain thing. But just like Miss Denise has said about Fred Hampton and Renee's space, she said, he reached out. We know that he reached out to the Hispanic community, to the Black community. He even reached out to the KKK or the white supremacists because it was about power and brought them together as a coalition. It's a hard thing to say, and people don't really realize it, but that's what we need to do. We can say, oh, I'm just going to be Black exclusive. Oh, I'm just going to be just the Hispanic community. Well, how's that going to work right now? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm Black first. I'm in my skin. But we know what we need to do. And if we could do this long, we would have done it by now. But we're only 13% of the country. So we have to broaden our scope. And it looks like it's getting a little faint because it used to be, you used to think years ago, you could pick that up. That person there, she may be white, she's a good one. This person here, and now you're seeing what the last administration did nothing more but give us exposure. And that's now we see it's out loud. It was hidden. Racism never gone. It's just hidden. It's, taken down a notch. But now it's open. It's amplified. They're bold, and now we can now see who we have in our corner. So just thank you for coming out this evening. Don't want to talk too much. My lovely co-host, my big sister, my esteemed co-host who has set the standard for moderation in spaces, who did it day after day after day. It was just her small contribution. We are so proud of you. We're so proud of what you're going to do in the future and amplifying all of our voices. So thank you so much tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I cannot close out because I sent him an invite earlier and I want to give him an opportunity to say something before we close out. Geechee has joined us, and I'm so happy because all of you have given, just a lot of great information and spoken truth that we all need to hear and adhere to because this is an urgent fight and it is going to require a lot of us, and it is going to require coalitions to get this work. Much I appreciate it. And Geechee, you have the floor. How are you?
I really, I'm good. I'm like working really, really hard. Um, and I've been on a little bit, like seeing things and getting on and then get back to work and then getting yelled at about my clothing now that is now an issue. Apparently, all of a sudden, since I'm a very basic, according to the person I date, whatever. But besides that, I look forward to listening to the recording because I know this is always a wonderful place for intellectual conversations and a deep dive on issues. I'm grateful to see everybody here. Dr. Marshall, Danny, Dawn, um, Trans is Beautiful, Mark, Gambit, Joey, even Shantae. who was very mean to me last night. Should I say that in my like Trump voice? She was very mean to me. I love Shantae. Her, Greg, and Shauna jumped me last night, but I still love them even though they jumped me. But they're still good. Anyways, I am grateful for everybody being here tonight. I love these late night and happy hour spaces. Not always doing it at 1 o'clock or 1:30 is kind of cool. But yeah, I like this. I like the pop-up thing. I think that's awesome too. And I'm glad to see everything is going well, and so many people in here that have so much respect for that are really doing the shit and doing the work. Oh, and I heard Mark in a space really giving the education, and I want to commend that because it's always good to hear people getting the correct information instead of wrong information. And I think that's about it. Just glad to see everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Be nice, be kind. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Oh,
Well,
I got to DM you. I want to DM you about. I know you went to a fundraiser, but I want to kind of see if we can try to do a fundraiser online, and maybe you and
okay.
somebody else I know and this person knows could like co-host it together, and I think that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. I want Jasper. So yeah, we're gonna do all we can. Brenda and I are going to try to attend his fundraiser and stuff and help him out. So yes, let's talk. And this is the kind of work that we do. So thank you so much. I'm glad you were able to join us tonight, and I want to thank everyone who joined us. And I want to encourage you, as I always do, to share and retweet this space because, maybe some people weren't able to join for whatever reason, but I think that it's a conversation worth sharing with others. And I just thank all of you so very much for what you contribute to the conversations that I have, for supporting me and my work, my vision. And as I said, it's you guys that really help to make it what it is. I'm just here to help amplify great voices, workers, and advocates who are doing things that I feel are meaningful, that have purpose, that are making a difference. And we have a whole room right now full of those people. Like I said, my waiting list of interviews is long. So that is why you will not be seeing me in spaces as much because it takes time to do the interviews, to edit, to get up. But it's so enjoyable. But I do want to continue sharing this with you, bringing you along with the journey and helping to amplify those people who are doing work that I feel needs to be amplified. So, as always, in Advocacy Arena, our job here is to bring awareness to important issues in our society so that we can help foster change. Um, and I appreciate you guys being a part of that. And I'm going to just leave you with peace and blessings tonight and look forward to you joining me again in the next Advocacy Arena. So have a good night, folks. Peace and blessings.